So unfortunately, you guys will be kicked out of the churches and out of the synagogues for telling what the truth is. Thank you. However, I've been praying to the Lord, about this second Exodus thing, and I did go to a synagogue yesterday, and they gave me this lovely letter called the Second Exodus Part 2. And so, because a lot of people are under the perception that the Jews are only the Ashkenaz or only the Sephardic Jews, a lot of people are setting up in order to get the Jews, the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi Jews out of here. But I'm telling you, it's not going to work because a lot of these people are partaking in wickedness. A lot of these people are not doing what God called them to do, whereas a lot of people in the Christian church are doing what God has called them to do. And so, because it says in Ezekiel 37, Ezekiel 47, Ephesians 2:12-13, that anyone who dwells with Israel becomes a part of Israel. This is going to be a case for a lot of Christians. Not all of them, because let me tell you what, I just went to a church, there was a steeple on it, it had a lotus flower as its sign, and the third thing, somebody in the parking lot, and I'm pretty sure they were working there because their vehicle was there from the time I got there in the morning to the second service. It said on the back of it, you can tell I'm up to no good, and it had some kind of witchcraft symbol on it. And that's the case with a lot of churches. A lot of these churches, they have the Nimrod phallic on it, which is what the steeple is. They have these symbols of darkness all over them because a lot of these churches are actually ran by witches and ran by warlocks. So I'm going to give you Ezekiel 34, and this is going to tell you that God's not really playing about pastors and that kind of thing. A lot of pastors, they first start off good, and then mammon gets to them. Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them are just wicked from the beginning. If your church was built with a steeple on it, I'm really doubting whether you were really after the Father's heart or not. And so this is part of the cover-up. These men, they look like devout men of Christ, but then all their money goes to their building fund and building another building and going to their cars, and it's going everywhere but the sheep. The tithes were meant for the widow and the orphan, and they're meant for the Levites. That's what the Bible says. And in the New Testament, there's no evidence of tithes in the first place. There's only offerings. And so you got these wicked men out here talking about, you got to give your 10% to our church because we need a new building. And Lord knows there's nobody in the first building that they got. So, this isn't about building buildings. It's about taking the money, making sure it doesn't go where it needs to go, and lining these people's pockets. So I'm going to read to you Ezekiel 34. And the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, Thus says the Master Yah to the shepherds, Woe to the shepherds of Israel. And a shepherd is a pastor, because the Father put his sheep under these pastors, sometimes because he's sending people a strong delusion, sometimes because his sheep ended up getting deceived, whatever the deal is. Okay, so he says, Woe to the shepherds of Israel who have been feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock? Thank you. You eat the fat and you put on the wool. You slaughter the fatlings. You do not feed the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, nor have you healed the sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back the straying, nor sought what was lost, but you have ruled them with might and harshness. And sometimes these pastors are really nice. However, I've been to a lot of churches and have gotten kicked out of a lot of churches, and they're not so nice when you start telling them what the truth is. And they're not nice by deceiving you into giving them your money. So, and they don't bind up the weak. My father or my mom, she went to a Vineyard church, and she needed help with paying for my aunt's funeral. Well, no one there wanted to help her. And Vineyard is a really huge church that makes tons of money each year. I'm sure it does. But, the money wasn't going to the widows and the orphans like it's supposed to. Anyway, so you have not brought back the lost. And a lot of these people teach things which make people lost. But you have ruled them with might and harshness, and they scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. My sheep wandered through all the mountains and on every hill, and my sheep were scattered all over the face of the earth, and no one was seeking or searching for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As I live, declares the Master, because my flock became a prey, and my flock became food for every beast of the field. From not having a shepherd, my shepherds did not search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves and did not feed my flock. Therefore, O shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Master Yah, See, I am against the shepherds, and I shall require my flock at their hand. I shall make them cease feeding the sheep, and the shepherds shall feed themselves no more. And I shall deliver my flock from their mouths, and they shall no longer be food for them. For thus says the Master Yah, See, I myself shall search for my sheep, and seek them out. As a shepherd seeks out his flock on the day he is among his scattered sheep, so shall I seek out my sheep and deliver them from all the places they were scattered in the day of cloud and thick darkness. And where are we at? We are upon the day of cloud and thick darkness. We are heading into the 3 days of darkness. This is what this is about. The lion letter, the second Exodus. The Father is gathering his sheep right now. All these black people that came from the west coast of Africa that are part of the tribe of Judah, he's gathering them. He's gathering all these Christians from all over the country that have been scattered into these false churches, into these the false beast system, still relying on the false beast system. He's gathering all his people from every single country in this world, and they are going to come together as his people. And Satan is angry. He knows that his time is short, and so he is trying extra hard to deceive his flock into things that they should not be partaking in. So, continuing, and I shall bring them out from the people, and gather them from the land, and shall bring them into their own land, and I shall feed them on the mountains of Israel, and in the valleys, and in all the dwellings of the land. In good pasture I shall feed them, and their folds shall be on the high mountains of Israel. They shall lie there in a good fold, and feed in a rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. I shall feed my flock and make them lie down, declares the Master. I shall seek them out of the lost and bring back the strayed, and I shall bind up the broken and strengthen what was sick. But the fat and the strong I shall destroy. I shall feed them with right ruling. So the fat and the strong he shall destroy. You know who the fat and the strong are? These false pastors over these false churches with their Nimrod freaking temples. Like, I can't stand it. It's so disgusting. The last church I went to had a lotus symbol on it. The lotus symbol is completely the symbol of the devil. Like, I used to do New Ageism, so I know about that. And so what he's going to do is he's going to destroy these people. A lot of these people that we thought were leaders and we thought were pastors, he's going to get rid of them because they're not doing what he wants them to do. Is it not enough for you to have eaten of the good pasture and the rest of your pasture you trample with your feet, or that you should drink of the clear waters and rest you muddy with your feet? And as for my flock, they will eat what you have trampled with your feet, and they will drink what you have muddied with your feet. It's disgusting. Therefore, thus says the Master to them, see, I myself shall judge between fat and lean sheep, because you have pushed with flank and shoulder, and thrust all the weak ones with your horns, and scatter them abroad. Therefore I shall save my flock, and let them no longer be prey. And I shall judge between sheep and sheep. And I shall raise up over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he shall feed them. He shall feed them and be their shepherd. And so sometimes Yeshua is called David. David also has a meaning to it. I would look it up because I don't quite remember what it is. But this is what he's looking to be. He's looking for Yeshua to be our high priest. He's looking for him to be our rabbi. And so it says in the New Testament that they will no longer tell each other to know the Lord. They will all know him. Yeshua is rabbi, okay? So, you know, if you're in these churches, you possibly need to get out of these churches and you need to start going to the Lord for yourself so you can know who he is. Start reading your Bible, start fasting, and start praying. Because I tell you what, it's about to be like Egypt here soon. Like, we're talking about fire falling from the sky. He's not playing. And if you are looking at YouTube videos and seeing what's going on right now, there's all sorts of destruction happening in the world. And I, will be their Elohim, and my servant David, a prince in their midst. I, have spoken, and I shall make a covenant of peace with them, and make evil beasts cease from the land, and they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the forest. And I shall make them and the places all around my hill a blessing, and shall cause showers to come down in their season. Showers of blessing they are. And the trees of the field shall yield their fruit, and the earth yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land. And they shall know that I am Yah, and I have broken the bars of their yoke. And I shall deliver them from the hand of those who enslave them. And they shall no longer be prey for the nations, and the beasts of the earth shall not devour them. And they shall dwell safely with no one to make them afraid. And I shall raise up for them a planting place of name, and they shall no longer be consumed by hunger in the land, nor bear the shame of the nations anymore. And so when he brings us out of these places, he is going to raise up a shepherd over us like David. He's going to be full of love and mercy and peace, and he's also going to be lawful, so we need to follow God's law. These pastors out here talking about the law is nailed to the cross and you don't have to follow the law anymore, and Jesus did all that for you, so you don't have to do anything. They're lying. They're lying. They are prophets of Baal, period. So he's going to bring us out of these. We don't have to hunger anymore, okay? There's so many people on the street. There's so many people in these inner city neighborhoods, in the country, in the city, just hungering. They have no food. They have no one to help them. They can't pay their bills because they're making $7 an hour, as if that's supposed to help somebody. It's over. It's over for these wicked pharaohs. Now, and I shall raise up for them a planting place of name, and they shall no longer be consumed by hunger in the land, nor bear the shame of the nations anymore. And also the shame of the nations, that's like all these things, like for me, dealing with vanity. I mean, that's the shame of the nations. The nations care about what they're going to wear, they care about what they're going to eat, and they let it get to them. That's part of having the shame of the nations, or someone that's dealing with some kind of sexual immorality because they see Beyonce all over the TV and they're like, oh, I got to be like that. No, you don't have to be like that. Beyonce is a devil worshiper, and so is her husband. And they shall know that I, Yah, their Elohim, am with them, and that they, the house of Israel, are my people, declares the Master. And you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your Elohim, declares the Master. So we are going to know that He is our God. We're going to know that there's only Him and there's none beside Him, because we're going to see all these things happening, not only in the spiritual, but also in the physical. And so I want you guys to start praying about this second Exodus and asking the Father, exactly what that's about, because He's calling a lot of us out right now. I thought for a long time that His name was Yahweh. But, I didn't really look up the evidence or anything. And then the other day, I just looked up the word Hawa in the lexicon, and it literally means to exist. Yah means God. Yahweh means the God that exists. He told Moses, tell my people I am. I was, I am, and I will be, in that He exists. And so, God is so good. We're going to know His name. So look at these things, guys. Start praying, start fasting, start seeking His face. Start telling people, He's the truth. He's the way, the truth, and the life, and there's none beside Him. So, super excited. But yeah, have a great day, guys. Enjoy yourselves.